Hope Logan had spent her entire life believing she was the daughter of Brooke Logan. Raised in the glittering shadow of Los Angeles's most scandalous and powerful families, she learned to navigate the storm of secrets and betrayals that defined the Forrester world. But nothing, no affair, no lie, no heartbreak could have prepared her for the revelation that shattered the very foundation of her identity. It started as a whisper of doubt, a routine medical test, a minor discrepancy in her blood type. Hope brushed it off until it happened again during a consultation involving her daughter, Beth. The doctor's puzzled look, the offhand comment about inherited markers, something didn't add up. Still, Hope buried the unease. This was Brooke, her mother. They had fought, reconciled, clashed over men and morals, but at the end of the day, they were blood. Weren't they? Hope couldn't shake the feeling. She ordered a private DNA test. She didn't tell Liam. She didn't tell her mother. Days passed. The results came back. And in one cold, clinical line, her world imploded. Biological relationship, not consistent with maternity. Hope was not Brooke's daughter. The paper trembled in her hand. Her knees buckled. Every childhood memory, every hard-earned lesson, every tear-filled embrace suddenly stained with doubt. Brooke Logan, the woman who had shaped her, defended her, judged her, fought for her, wasn't her mother. At first, she thought it was a mistake, a lab error, but multiple retests confirmed it. Brooke had no idea. Ridge didn't know. Even Deacon, her father, he had no clue. No one did. Hope began digging. Quietly. Relentlessly. She pulled hospital records. She tracked down nurses and midwives who had worked in the maternity ward the night she was born. Most were long gone or unwilling to speak. But one an aged nurse with shaky hands and a haunted look remembered something. Something strange. A woman. A bribe. A switch. Hope followed the trail, each clue darker than the last. And then a name came up. A name she'd grown up fearing. Sheila Carter. Sheila had haunted the Forrester family for decades. A master manipulator. A sociopath. A woman who had faked deaths, stolen children, destroyed lives. And now possibly the true mother of Hope Logan. The idea repulsed her. It couldn't be true. It shouldn't be true. But the evidence kept piling up. Surveillance logs. Visitor records. A strange coincidence. Sheila Carter had been working as a nurse, under an alias, at the same hospital where Hope was born. Hope confronted Brooke. Showed her the documents. Brooke, horrified, denied any knowledge. She collapsed in tears, furious and helpless. "You are my daughter," she insisted, her voice cracking. But the science said otherwise. Hope's world unraveled. She withdrew. She stared at herself in mirrors, searching for some trace of Sheila's madness. Was that where her fierce sense of justice came from? Her obsession with doing what was right no matter the cost? Was she doomed to become like the woman she despised? But she couldn't ignore the truth any longer. Hope dug deeper into Sheila's past. Dug until her fingers bled. And what she uncovered was worse than she imagined. Sheila had orchestrated the switch not on a whim, but with purpose. She wanted a child. But more than that, she wanted revenge. Revenge against Brooke, who had once exposed one of her secrets and humiliated her. Sheila had watched Brooke grow pregnant, stalked her, infiltrated the hospital under false credentials, and waited. She swapped the babies. Brooke's real child? Dead in the nursery. Hope? Taken smuggled into the Logan home like a ticking time bomb. Hope confronted Sheila. The woman's smile said it all. Cold. Calculating. Proud. "Yes," Sheila said, voice steady. "You're mine." Hope's stomach twisted. She wanted to scream. Instead, She demanded the truth. Sheila told her everything. How she had been watching Hope from afar for years. How she'd influenced her life in small, invisible ways. The men she'd drawn close to Hope. The careers she'd derailed. The moments of heartbreak she'd engineered, all to keep Hope on the edge, always yearning, always searching. "You were my masterpiece," Sheila whispered. Hope left that confrontation changed. She didn't tell anyone what Sheila said, not yet. She didn't know how. How could she face Liam and say, "My mother is a sociopath who used me as a pawn"? How could she look into Beth's eyes and not see the stain of Sheila's bloodline? But secrets don't stay buried in Los Angeles. News of the DNA results leaked. Rumors spread. The Forresters were horrified. Ridge, livid, accused Sheila of ruining another life. Brooke was inconsolable. Steffi tried to comfort Hope, but her words rang hollow. Only Liam stood by Hope's side until he couldn't. Liam began to question whether Hope was the same person. "I love you," he said, "but I don't know you anymore." Their marriage cracked under the pressure. Hope begged him not to see her as a reflection of Sheila, but the doubt had taken root. Meanwhile, Sheila tried to draw Hope closer. She offered her power, influence, protection. "You're strong," she said. "Like me. You just don't know it yet." Hope rejected her again and again. But inside, a storm brewed. She started having nightmares, visions of violence, echoes of a voice that wasn't hers. She pulled away from everyone. Deacon tried to reach her. Brooke begged her to come home. But Hope was spiraling. Then came the breaking point. A confrontation with Steffi turned physical. Harsh words. Old wounds. Steffi pushed. Hope snapped. Sheila's voice rang in her ears. "They'll never see you as one of them." Hope struck Steffi. Just once. But it was enough. The press caught wind. Forrester Creations considered removing her from the board. Ridge wanted her gone. Liam took full custody of Beth. Hope stood alone. But in that loneliness, something hardened. She stopped apologizing. She stopped chasing acceptance. And when Sheila offered her the truth about her origins, her father, her full family history, Hope listened. Not to bond. Not to forgive. But to understand. She used Sheila. She took what she needed. Knowledge. Leverage. And then she made her own move. Hope went public. Held a press conference. Told the world the truth. That she had been lied to, manipulated. That her entire life had been a game played by two women who claimed to love her. She disavowed both. Hope started her own fashion house. Rivaled Forrester Creations. Took with her the youngest, brightest designers. Her message was clear. She would not be defined by Brooke or Sheila. She would make her own legacy. But in the dark, Sheila smiled. Because a woman who walks away from her past walks straight into her future. And for the first time, Hope didn't know whether that terrified her or thrilled her. Daphne had been waiting, watching, studying every move Carter made with quiet intensity. For months, she had played the background, knowing that timing was everything. When Quinn left town and Paris disappeared into the PR department with her broken heart, Carter was left floating in a limbo of loneliness and unresolved passion. That's when Daphne made her move. Subtle at first, an extra-long glance during a board meeting, the offer to grab a quick bite after work, a few late-night texts disguised as friendly banter. But Daphne wasn't interested in friendship. She saw what others missed. Carter was vulnerable. And if she played her cards right, he could be hers. Meanwhile, time was shifting everything at Forrester Creations. Steffi and Hope, longtime rivals, sisters by marriage, enemies in business and love, finally saw each other through new eyes. After years of clashing over Liam, over business decisions, over their legacies, they were tired. tired of fighting, tired of competing. Life had been brutal to both of them in different ways, and now that Steffi had returned from Europe with a more grounded perspective and Hope had faced the collapse of her marriage, there was nothing left to fight over. They made peace, not in some grand declaration, but through quiet moments and unspoken truths that slowly evolved into mutual respect. Ridge was the first to notice the change, and it rattled him. Steffi, his fiercely loyal daughter, showing kindness to Hope? Something didn't add up. He couldn't decide if he should be relieved or suspicious. Hope, newly liberated from her marriage to Liam, wasn't wasting time. She had a secret, one she'd been holding onto for weeks, and the moment finally came when she told Carter. She was pregnant. Not with Liam's child, not with Thomas's no. This child was conceived in a moment of escape and comfort, one reckless night with Carter. The consequences were unfolding fast, and Carter's world tilted. He'd just begun to let Daphne in, and now he was thrust into fatherhood with a woman he never expected to see in that way. Daphne's eyes flashed with something fierce when she found out. She wasn't about to be written off, not after everything she'd invested emotionally. But Carter, to his credit, stood tall. He wasn't going to run. He was going to do the right thing by Hope and the child. Still, his heart was splintering. Elsewhere, Liam was spiraling. He'd expected reconciliation with Hope, but instead he got a gut punch from Grace, his former flame and quiet confidant. She told him what he didn't want to hear. Hope had moved on. Completely. There was no room left in her life for Liam. And Grace didn't tell him out of cruelty. She told him because he needed to stop chasing ghosts and start living again. Liam didn't take it well. He isolated himself, sinking into self-pity, unsure where to turn. The irony was painful while Hope was finding new life. Liam was losing his. Yet not every story was ending in sorrow. Across town, a long-separated couple found their way back to each other. It wasn't loud or flashy. Just two people who had gone through their own hells and came out the other side still looking for each other. There was history there, the kind that didn't fade. Their reunion was quiet, tender, but powerful. For a moment, love won. At the same time, Will, Electra, and Zend had visions of legacy. They wanted to create something new, something bold. Not just a brand, but a dynasty. And to do that, they needed Daphne. She had the brains, the ambition, the drive. But she was distracted, torn between personal desire and professional opportunity. They cornered her in the design office, sketches and mock-ups in hand, pitching the concept of a fashion line that bore their name. A fusion of Forrester tradition and modern rebellion. Daphne listened, intrigued but cautious. She didn't want to make the mistake of aligning herself with the wrong future. Yet the fire in Zen's eyes, the clarity of Electra's voice, and Will's strategic insight sparked something in her. Maybe it was time to stop chasing a man and start building something of her own. Brooke and Taylor had their own reckoning over coffee and silk swatches. The fashion show was coming up fast, and they had no choice but to cooperate. Their discussions about fabrics and models turned into unexpected conversations about Ridge, his indecisiveness, his heart, his legacy. Taylor, ever the psychologist, analyzed him with cold precision. Brooke, though wounded, still defended him. They didn't come to any conclusion about the man, but for once, they didn't tear each other down over him. They just existed, two women with too much shared history to ever be enemies again. Katie, always the voice of reason, sat Ridge down and gave it to him straight. She told him he couldn't keep bouncing between Brooke and Taylor, that he needed to make a choice not for their sake, but for his. Ridge was aging, and so was his charm. It was time to grow up, to be the man he claimed to be. Katie's words stung, but they stuck. Ridge didn't respond right away, but something inside him shifted. And then came the night of the fashion gala, a sleek, candlelit event meant to launch the new line and celebrate a season of transition. Brooke had intended to skip it, drowning herself in wine and regret, but a surprise visitor pulled her out of her misery. Donna, full of sparkle and no patience for self-pity, dragged her sister into a limousine with a dress and a plan. Brooke arrived at the event radiating old-school glamour, catching Ridge's eye from across the room. It wasn't a reconciliation, but it was a reminder Brooke Logan was still a force. In one corner of the gala, Carter stood between two women, Hope and Daphne, each offering him a different version of the future. He felt like he was being torn in half. Daphne, fierce and hungry. Hope, quiet but magnetic, carrying his child. There was no easy path forward. In another corner, Will and Electra toasted to their bold idea, even as Zend whispered plans for a media takeover. The next generation wasn't waiting, they were already building. Upstairs on the balcony, Liam stood alone, looking down at the glittering party. He saw Hope laughing with Carter, radiant in her flowing gown, her hand resting unconsciously on her stomach. For the first time, he truly saw it. She was gone. But below, Grace appeared beside him. Not a ghost from his past, but perhaps a flicker of a new beginning. Drama, love, power, and betrayal all colliding in one explosive evening. And just when it seemed like things might finally settle, a scream rang out near the entrance. The crowd turned. A figure staggered in, blood on their shirt. Everything stopped. Because in this world, nothing stays.